Now, you drew it. Who wrote it? Did Denny
The Batman? Yeah, Denny adapted the Sam Hamm screenplay, and he was kind of involved with it, like certainly for less time than Jonathan Peterson and myself. Jonathan was the editor.
Okay.
Because the movie in itself there were lots of things that were kind of rewritten while it was in production. So if we had just stuck with, the screenplay, we could have probably started drawing and working on it before we really had any kind of sense of what the movie was going to look like or whatever. But we tried to do as much as we could to stall until we had, stills and things. But even as we were getting them, we were seeing Jonathan was like, he and I were good friends, and we both were big movie buffs, so it was a fun project in that way to kind of feel like you're on the middle of some, big blockbuster in the making. But he'd get these contact sheets and script changes from his contact at Warner Publicity, and they would often be like, "Whoa, they threw out that whole scene! Wow, they did this," and it was kind of hard to keep up with it. And we did have good reference for the first part of the movie. That's where the bulk of the reference. The on-set photographer would take beautiful shots of the sets without actors on them or whatever, and then some while the things were being filmed. I don't even know if they do that anymore. If that's even I
think they do. But I think they do, because you always get those giant coffee table movie production books these days.
Yeah.
So somebody has to be, absolutely, and that's part of that's obviously part of the marketing now. Or another after product and everything.
Yeah. So with the faces, I always thought it was funny that the big challenge with doing that was in a comic book, as opposed to a movie, you have a finite number of panels you can fit. So they had a page count of 64 pages, which it was full. I mean, from the original Denny script, there really wasn't a lot of extra room to move and drop and add stuff. But we kept adding stuff, so it just made more panels, But with like a shot of, say, a big sequence with the Joker and Bruce Wayne, they would mostly shoot stuff as, Bruce Wayne would get a close-up. The Joker would get a, close-up. There weren't that many shots where, like in a comic book, you need to have an over-the-shoulder shot, for example. Mm-hmm. Here's your reaction shot of Bruce Wayne, but Joker's in the foreground and you're seeing past his ear or something.
Yep.
Those are the type of, those are bread and butter for comics because you're condensing stuff. So you're taking a, 5-minute sequence and condensing it to a one page. You need to combine characters into panels so that both of them can talk at the same time. Whereas, like I said, movies, it's all about you're showing the actors' faces. You're generally showing them from whatever their preferred angle is as well. So you don't really get a lot of you can't do low extreme angles. There's no up the nose shot of Michael Keaton or whatever. You know what I mean? It's just not the same type of mechanics that you would use as a comic artist that you use in a movie because, a comic artist, we're making up the characters or we're drawing them. In a movie, they're paying somebody millions of dollars. So, they want them to look like themselves. They want them to look good. Maybe one guy doesn't want to be shot from the right, or you know what I mean. Everybody's got something written in their contract, so it would limit the number of angles that I had to choose from. So if I found an angle, even if it was a tiny shot of the Joker on the street, and he's walking away, if you could see a nice shot of the way his head looked from behind, well then heck, I would blow that up, or I would use that reference for 5 or 10 pages whenever I need a shot, because it was the only shot that I had that was good enough to use as reference. So
that's cool. Now, was Nicholson was cool with using his likeness? I know that a few movie adaptations over the years were for comic books were killed because the actors I don't want that. No.
Yeah. Well, I mean, here it became actually it's funny because I think probably the Star Wars and the Indiana Jones and those things probably had more of that licensing actors' likenesses and things. It probably became more of a thing because of that. So like when Batman came along, we knew we'd have to get likeness approval. And Jonathan, again, he was really smart about this. He said, there's a way to get approval. It's like a blanket approval, but you have to do an audition. And that was better than, like, say, having to submit pages to the actors, three or four different actors' representation,
right,
to get them to sign off when you're really trying to meet a deadline. Because
sure,
once those pages are done, they want them colored. They want them,
Yeah.
So what we did was, I did probably in February, I would say, of '89, before I really started drawing anything. I did audition pages. So I did a full sheet, 11 by 17, of multiple poses of Michael Keaton as Batman, Michael Keaton as Bruce Wayne, Jack Nicholson as Jack Napier, Jack Nicholson as the Joker, and then Kim Basinger. Those were the three main ones that had to sign off.
Sure. Pat Hingle didn't give you issues about Commissioner Gordon. That's good.
No. And I actually captured him really well, if I do say so.
I was telling you, Brewster's Millions, Pat Hingle in Brewster's Millions. No, I love him. They didn't use him enough, and they really could have, because he's a great actor, and he's just kind of blustering around, poor man's Chief O'Hara kind of.
Right.
And it's like, oh, that's a shame, man. You really got a great actor there. Damn.
Well, he was in like multiple ones beyond the Keaton.
Right.
I know he was still playing Commissioner Gordon in the later ones, so they definitely had a chance to give him more, more to do.
That's hilarious.
But these things went for approval, and then meanwhile I was still working on the Superman books. I was writing and drawing at that time, so it was like trying to figure out a way to get a vacation from that so I could draw 64 pages, and that wasn't an easy thing to get, because Mike Carlin didn't really want to use fill-ins. It was, not a good thing.
Yeah.
So
this is,
I wound up doing double duty.
This is like the height of your career, wouldn't you say?
Yeah.
In terms of man. So no, absolutely. It's like, don't mess with the secret recipe for Superman. Everything's going good right now.
Yeah. So what I was working on that stuff, and I was waiting on these approvals, and we got approved by Keaton, we got approved by Kim Basinger's representatives, and then I get the Nicholson one back, and it was just funny. Both of them, they were done, DC had photostated them. So the photostat has yellow highlight marker on areas where he didn't think it, and it says, "This does not look like me."
Ooh.
And I said to Jonathan, well, the agent's not going to say that, because it's not supposed to look like the agent.
Right,
so clearly
right.
Nicholson had done this.
Wow.
So I still have, it's not like he signed it.
No, but still, that's...
Yeah, it was kind of fun. But then, again, at that point, I didn't have a lot of Joker reference. I didn't have a lot of Jack Napier stuff. It was really pretty early in the process. So all I had to work with was, I think they had a photo spread in Time magazine or something, in maybe December or something, when that first trailer had come out. So that was what I had to work with. So, by the time I'd been rejected and had to go back and fix a couple of the Joker and Jack Napier things, I was starting to get some reference. So at least had a better basis for doing it. And then we got approved, and then we didn't have to look back on it. So it was kind of a more streamlined process to do it that way. It was definitely the way to go.